Hi guys, my name is Jesse and today I'm going to talk about the most important part of saddle hunting, which is safety. I'll tell you guys what I do to ensure my safety and others that use my equipment throughout the hunting season. First things first, before any hunting season ever starts, I'll take out all my equipment and I'll inspect it and make sure everything is functioning properly. So first thing I'll go ahead and inspect is my platform. This is an XOP Invader I've been using for a few years now. And the first thing I'll come in, I'll check is my strap. These straps are usually the first thing that can kind of get worn down and will probably need to be replaced first. I'll come in here and where my strap meets my hanger on my platform is usually where it frays. I'll come in here and check. I just replaced this about a week ago, and if you can tell here, there is already some fraying. It doesn't need to be replaced right now. I'll probably run through it for the rest of this season, but before next season, I'll go ahead and probably replace this one again. Once I go through the strap and make sure nothing's frayed or cut, I'll go ahead and I'll check out the platform, make sure where my strap hook's on, it's not bent and everything's still tight, bolt's still tight. I'll come in here where these bolts are, make sure they're still good. I'll make sure my teeth are not bent and everything will bite into the tree as it should. Next thing I'll do is I'll pull out my sticks. These are the XOP X2 sticks and I've modified them slightly. What I've done is instead of straps, I went ahead and made some Amsteel ropes. Daisy chains is what they're called. But you know, everything's gonna have wear and tear as well. So I'll check these. I'll check every loop I got and make sure that nothing looks out of the ordinary and it's going to function properly, and that when I get in the tree, I know I'm going to be safe. I'll do that for all four sticks that I have. I'll also check the nuts and bolts for the steps, make sure that they're clean, they're not loose, and everything's going to work when I climb up the tree. I'll check the teeth as well, make sure that it's going to bite properly. I'll go ahead and bring out my saddle. This saddle I got here is the Bullpack Original V1 saddle. I'll inspect every bit of it as well. First thing I'll come to is, I think, is the most important part that you're probably going to check, that need to check quite often. I will say that before I go hunting, every single time I check bridge, saddle, and my ropes. I'll go ahead and just go through everything that I run through on my saddle. First thing I go through is the bridge. I'll make sure that everything looks clean. There's no frays, there's no cuts. I'll check my prusik knot. There can get some frayed when you're walking through the woods, brush, sticks, stickers, sand, briars, anything gets caught in this prusik knot. When it's tight and easier to cut. So I'll come in here and check my prusik knot, make sure everything looks and feels clean. And I'll go to my stress points on my bridge, which is where it connects to the actual saddle. I'll check this, make sure there's nothing that is frayed, it moves properly and there's no cuts. And then I'll do that on this side as well. I'll go ahead and check the loops where my bridge connects, make sure that looks clean. Then I'll come down to my linemen's. I'll go ahead and check both of them. I do use both of these when I'm climbing a tree, so I'll check both of them. I'll check the stitching that it connects to the saddle, and I'll do that on both sides and make sure that they're functioning as they should. Then I'll turn it over where I can see the whole saddle, and I'll inspect all the stitchings around, make sure there's no rips down here on the sides, make sure everything looks good. Last thing I'll go on the saddle itself is the leg straps. Make sure that there's no tears, no rips, and the stitching looks great as well. Then I'll come to my ropes. This is my tree tether. I run a duck Kong on it. I'll make sure my duck Kong is functioning as it should. You can also run a prusik knot that connects to your carabiner as well, and that makes sure that if your duck Kong or your ascender of any type ever fails, that prusik knot is kind of a second safety feature there. So I come to my duck Kong. I will check my carabiner, make sure it functions properly, nothing's bent. These little pins inside, they work fine, and they're not rusted or anything. And then I'll check the rope. I'll check the stress point on my rope where I wrap this around the tree. What I do is when I wrap it around the tree, I wrap it and then I'll run my duck Kong through this loop. That keeps your tree tether high, but it does cause extra stress points on your knot and just general stress on your rope. So I'll go in and make sure everything looks clean. There's no frays. If there is, replace it. There's no doubt about it. You replace it because a few dollars is nothing compared to an injury or even your life. So once I check my tree tether, I'll go ahead and I'll check my linements. I usually run 2 linements. I think I only got one right in here now, where my linements connects to my saddle. Same thing. Stress point on the saddle, stress point on your linements. I'll go ahead and check that, make sure there's a little bit of fraying here. Go to your own degree. If there's any type of fraying that you can consider thinking replacing it, go ahead and replace it. I'll go ahead and check my Prusik knot down here. I don't run a sender on my linements because I can usually get up in a tree pretty easily without it. But I'll check my Prusik knot. I'll check my knot down here, make sure everything looks good. I'll check my carabiner, make sure that it functions, not bent, and everything functions on my carabiner as it should. If you run 2 linements, as I do, check your other linements as well. And once that's done, I'll go ahead and get in a tree. I'll get in a tree and check it over again because, checking on the table or checking it, not under stress, can hide some stuff. So when you get in a tree, I'll get 3-4 foot up in the tree just so I can sit down and add stress to my saddle and my ropes, and then I will check it. It's kind of like when you stretch a rubber band. Before you stretch it, you can't see any of those little cracks or slivers in it, but once you stretch it, you can see them. Same thing with your saddle. I'll get in there, add stress to my saddle, and check it over again. The next thing that is also good for safety is fitness. To saddle hunt, you need to be fit, you need to be clean, you need to know what you're doing when you get into a tree. So, because it doesn't take much for a part of your body to give out, and just because you're wearing a saddle doesn't keep you from injury. But the next thing I'm going to talk about is when you're getting up a tree, you will always be connected to the tree. Before I start climbing up, I'll run my linements around the tree and connect myself. And then I will start my ascend. I'll climb up. When I run to a branch that's too big to get my linements around, I'll take my second linements. I'll take my second lineman, go over that limb, disconnect my other linements, stuff that back in my pocket, and keep climbing. Once I set my platform and I get onto my platform, I will connect my tree tether before I disconnect my linements. So I am connected to the tree 100% of the time, and I do believe that saddle hunting is the safest way to hunt, and it's very effective. So give it a try, and thanks for watching.
Alright guys, so I know Jesse gave you guys a rundown of the saddle, but I want to be more detailed and up close to show you guys exactly what I want you guys looking out for. So again, we can't harp on this enough that this right here is essentially a safety device. It's your own life within this saddle. So, your discipline on making sure you're checking over your saddle, something that you're sitting in 20 feet up, 30 feet up in a tree, it's very important to make sure that you develop the discipline to just quickly, every time before you use it, just quickly glance over it real quick, make sure, you look at the key stress areas of the saddle, and just make sure that it's good to go. If it's not, don't risk it. You know, we can all ground hunt, we can all stand hunt, we can't, you know, we don't have to go out and hunt. You know, and it's super important to just make sure that you are safe. There's been accidents, there's been freak accidents, there's been all kinds of crazy stuff that has happened when it comes to saddle hunting. So I feel like your life is definitely worth 5 minutes taking a look at your gear real quickly. So again, I'm going to go in depth. So what Jesse was saying is making sure you check the lineman's rope or the lineman's connections. So what you're wanting to look on any saddle, anywhere you hook up your lineman rope onto the saddle, you want to make sure you're checking those stitchings. So all right here, make sure you can pull this apart and nothing is, you know, it can't be tugged off of there. Just checking all the stitching that incorporates the lineman's loops right here, and making sure that's good to go. If it's bad, if it's frayed, you feel like it's not safe, then don't do it. Contact the manufacturer. Even if you don't have our saddle, this is good information. You know, if you have like a tethered saddle or what have you, and it looks like it's going to be like it's ripping or fraying or whatever, reach out to them and see if they can fix it. If they can't, then come to us. We'll get you hooked up. But just making sure that this is good to go. Okay. I would say this is the second most important thing to look at. The most important thing to make sure that nothing is happening is, so you have the chassis webbing, the webbing that actually constructs the entire saddle, which right here would be your bridge, this entire outer webbing right here. You want to make sure you're checking for these key areas. Where a lot of stress happens is going to be right on the edge of the saddle, because this is where the majority of the weight is going to be going. It's going to be pulling. So you want to come in here. I'll show you guys close-ups, but you want to make sure that you are coming in here, making sure you're checking all this stitching, making sure nothing can't be ripped or torn right off the panel itself. Make sure you're checking up here. Make sure you're checking down here, and even on the outer side, just inspecting it. Usually, on all saddles, what they're going to have is they're going to have a triple seam going around the curvature of the saddle. You want to make sure you're checking those seams. I'll give you guys close-ups as well. Even on the bottom side, same thing. And here's an even better visual inspection. As you can see, right here, there is a triple seam right there. Okay, now that is the most important thing to look out for, and the number one thing you guys should always be looking at before and after every hunt. If you can't do that, if you can't develop the discipline to take 1 minute to quickly glance and pull on this webbing, even the stitching, and just taking a look at everything, I feel like you shouldn't be in saddle hunting. Even when it comes to stand hunting, if you can't take time to look at your stand, look at the bolts, can't look at the webbing, you shouldn't be hunting. You should be hunting on the ground. So right here as well, this is where the actual webbing overlaps and connects the entire saddle. As you're going to see right here, this stitching right here, you're definitely going to want to take a look at that and make sure nothing is fraying, making sure nothing is pulling apart. And that's generally it. Those are the most important. Everything is a plus, except for the lineman's loops. You want the chassis webbing and the lineman's loop, the most important. Make sure you're looking out for that. Everything else is a bonus. Just make sure you're looking for the outer chassis webbing, lineman loop, and that's it.